Hello and welcome. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran and you're watching the weekend edition of News Night on DD India, your prime-time destination for news and bespoke analysis. It's good to see you again. Right, on the show tonight, we take a step back, pause and revisit the three new farm acts that are at the center of the farmers' protest. The idea is to go behind the news to give you a better, fuller understanding of the issues at hand. We sift fact from fiction and demolish certain myths, all in the hope that by the time you finish watching it, you would have a better appreciation of the progressive reforms unleashed in the agriculture sector. Plus, news and updates from India and the world, all that and much, much more coming up over the next 1 hour. But first, as always, the headlines. Welcome news on the Covid-19 vaccine front. Pfizer becomes the first pharmaceutical company to ask the Drugs Controller General of India for emergency use authorization for its vaccine in the country. If approved, the Pfizer vaccine will be the first vaccine to become available in India. India makes progress in its fight against Covid-19. Number of coronavirus cases falls. Total cases at 4.03 lakh, the lowest in more than 4 months. Recovery rate further improves to 94.37%. Government reiterates that minimum support price shall continue, willing to give a written undertaking in this regard. Minister of State for Agriculture Kailash Chaudhary says vested interests trying to aid the farmers, but he is confident that the protesters won't disturb the peace. Nation pays homage to Dr. Bhimrao Ambedkar on the occasion of the 64th death anniversary. Prime Minister Modi says Ambedkar's thoughts and ideals continue to give strength to millions. Government remains committed to fulfilling Dr. Ambedkar's dreams. Prime Minister Modi to inaugurate the construction of Agra Metro project on Monday. Union Minister of Housing and Urban Affairs Hardeep Puri and Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath to attend the event. And in sport, India clinches the T20 cricket series against Australia by beating the hosts by 6 wickets in the second match. Shikhar Dhawan, Virat Kohli and Hardik Pandya excel. All right, first up, take a look at all the news related to the COVID-19 pandemic in India in our COVID Wrap segment.
The nation's battle against COVID-19 keeps gaining ground. More and more good news is also coming in on the vaccine front. The PM himself has said a vaccine would be available in India in a matter of weeks. The latest is that the first vaccine to become available in the country could be the one developed by Pfizer. Pfizer India has sought clearance for emergency use of its COVID vaccine from the Drug Controller General of India. Pfizer India wrote to the DCGI on the 4th of this month seeking the clearance. Its parent company has already got the permission in Britain and vaccination will be initiated there next week. If Pfizer India gets the DCGI's nod, it will become the first vaccine to be available in the country. Vaccine development and testing is on at a furious pace in India, and Prime Minister Narendra Modi himself is monitoring it. He travelled to 3 cities to track all the latest developments, engaging with scientists and officials. State governments are also preparing ground for mass vaccination. Meanwhile, the number of active cases in the country are constantly declining due to the collective efforts of the centre, state governments and other stakeholders. The country has 4,03,248 active COVID-19 cases now. This is the lowest number of active cases in 138 days. The number was 4,02,529 as far back as the 21st of July. The proportion of active cases now is 4.18% of the total infections so far. 36,011 new cases have been confirmed in the last 24 hours. 41,970 infected patients have recovered during the same period. As a result, the recovery rate has climbed further to 94.37%. The number of recovered patients has gone beyond 91 lakh. The difference between active number of cases and recovered patients is also around 87 lakh. Progress on the COVID battlefront has been made due to the dogged pursuit of the centre and state governments along with all stakeholders to trace, test and treat all cases. A testimony to this effort is that till the 5th of this month, a total of 4,69,86,575 COVID samples had been tested. On the 5th of December alone, the number of samples tested was 11,01,063. With Nitendra Singh in Delhi, Newsnight Desk, DD India.
All right, let me dive straight into our cover story. The centre has once again made it very clear that it is ready to dispel any apprehension regarding the new Farm Acts. The government has gone to the extent of saying it is ready to give a written assurance on MSP. It accused the key opposition party of politicizing the matter.
The farmers' agitation continues unabated at various border points of the national capital. While the farmers are protesting, the centre has once again reiterated its commitment to the provisions of the minimum support price or the MSP. The government has repeated that it is willing to give a written assurance on the matter.
ये कानून किसानों के हित के बिल हैं और निश्चित रूप से इसमें अगर कोई इनको लगती है कि कुछ उनको अगर किसानों को, तो उसमें निश्चित रूप से सरकार ने भी कहा है कि हम उसके अंदर संशोधन करने की आवश्यकता होगी तो संशोधन भी करेंगे। ये बात नरेंद्र सिंह जी तोमर साहब ने भी कही और हमारे प्रधानमंत्री माननीय नरेंद्र मोदी जी ने भी इस बात को रखा है और कहा है कि MSP आगे जारी रहेगी।
Kailash Chaudhary also lashed out at the Congress party for politicizing the issue and said that the laws are in the favor of the farmers. He said that the government has full faith in the farmers that they won't indulge in any public disorder.
इसके अंदर कांग्रेस की सरकार और जो विपक्ष है वो इनको भड़काने का काम कर रहे हैं और आज देश के किसान हैं वो नरेंद्र मोदी जी की इन योजनाओं के ऊपर सहमत है, लेकिन कुछ राजनीतिक लोग इसके अंदर आग में घी झोंकने का काम कर रहे हैं। लेकिन मुझे पूरा विश्वास है नरेंद्र मोदी जी के नेतृत्व के ऊपर और किसानों पर भी मुझे भरोसा है कि किसान ऐसा निर्णय नहीं लेंगे कि जिससे कि देश के अंदर कहीं पर भी अशांति हो। लेकिन मैं सोचता हूँ इस बिल के माध्यम से किसान को आज़ादी मिली है।
The government and farmers met for the 5th round of talks on Saturday, which were held in a cordial atmosphere. The next meeting is slated to be held on 9th of December. Centre has made it clear after the meeting that the MSP will continue and it is ready to dispel any apprehension in this regard. The APMC being a state subject, the centre has said that it will not influence it in any way. But at the same time, the centre reiterated that it is ready to put to rest any doubts that are still lingering in the minds of the farmers. Meanwhile, the residents of Delhi continue to be at receiving end due to the continued jam at the borders. Newsnight Desk, DD India.
And now take a look at a ground report from the state of Maharashtra. Now, farmers at a village in Hingoli district of Maharashtra earn profits exporting their produce. It will help you understand the benefits of the new Farm Acts.
Satifal, a small village in Hingoli district of Maharashtra, has become famous in the region due to Surya Farmer Producer Company, which sells farmers' agriculture produce. With the help of new agriculture law nowadays, the farmer produce company like Surya Farmer Producer Company Limited is directly selling agriculture produce to buyers without involvement of APMC. This company has exported turmeric of worth Rs 1.92 crore to Bangladesh and worth Rs 1 crore turmeric to ITC and other buyers outside the mandi. This trade outside APMC is saving 1% mandi fee and also without being compelled to sell through commission agents.
इस कंपनी के माध्यम से हमने 538 फार्मर संगठित करके और इंडिविजुअल जो जुड़े वाले फार्मर है उनको लेके लगभग 3,000 फार्मर हमसे जुड़े वाले इनके साथ हम काम कर रहे हैं। और किसान का ये जो अभी कायदा आया है एपीएमसी के बाहर जो हम काम करेंगे तो इसके ऊपर हमें सेस देना नहीं पड़ेगा, तो ये बहुत हमें क्रांतिकारी लगा।
Farmer Bhagwan Bhalerao from Hingoli district also sell his produce directly to buyers via this company. He said this process helped him in saving transportation cost and time. Earlier in APMC, farmers have to spend entire day to sell the produce.
जो केंद्र सरकार ने कायदा किया है वो जो हमारे वहाँ किसानों को कुछ कंपनियाँ दिए वाले हैं, ये कंपनी में हमारा मार्केट कमेटी से वहाँ थोड़ा ज़्यादा फ़ायदा हो रहा है। मार्केट कमेटी में माल डालने से हमारा थोड़ा नुकसान होता था, कुछ देर लगता था माल बेचने को। वहाँ वैसा कोई नहीं है, माल हमारा जल्दी बेचता है, जल्दी पैसे मिलते हैं, वो हमारा कमीशन नहीं काटते वहाँ। ये ऐसे फायदे हैं छोटे छोटे छोटे।
The new agricultural law enable ordinary farmers to sell their produce to the corners of the world. Farmers in the district like Hingoli have achieved this feat due to these laws. Aruna Hokarne's report, DD India.
Right, so let me take a few minutes of your time, viewers, to help you understand the features of the new pro-farmer reform laws enacted by the government. First up, take a look at the features of the new reform laws. The APMC will remain. The reforms do not dismantle the existing structure of the state APMC. Point number 2, the Act provides competition to existing structure, and that is all about it. Nothing more, nothing less. And point number 3, they open up alternatives such as direct buying and contract farming. The fourth point is that they do not, I repeat, do not dismantle the prevailing system of public procurement at minimum support price, and the government will continue to buy food grains at the MSP as it always has in the past. Next up, let's take a look at the features of the 3 specific acts. First up, the Farmers Produce Trade and Commerce Promotion and Facilitation Act 2020. Now, this enables intra and interstate trade of farm produce beyond the physical premises of existing markets. Second point, trade can be conducted at any place of convenience of the farmers, such as the farm gate, factory premises, warehouses, silos, or cold storages. And point number 3, the Act allows online trading of farm produce. We are going digital here. Point number 4, it also allows farmer organizations and the private sector companies in particular to set up their own electronic trading platforms. And state governments will not, I repeat, will not charge a fee, cess or levy outside the physical market area. Next up is the features of the second act. It's called Farmers Empowerment and Protection Agreement of Price Assurance and Farm Services Act 2020. First up, the Act enables agreements between a farmer and a buyer for production of or rearing of farm produce. Point number 2, price is to be clearly mentioned in the contract. And 3, there is a clearly specified dispute resolution mechanism for protecting the rights of the farmer and the buyer. Next up is the other features of the Act. This is the Essential Commodities Amendment Act 2020. Now, the central government will only invoke the Act in an extraordinary situation such as a war, famine, price rise, or natural calamity. Point number 2, a stock limit can only be based on the rise in prices, and the stock limit can only be imposed if there is a 100% increase in retail price of horticultural produce and 50% increase in retail price of non-perishable produce. Now let's move to the benefits of the farm laws in a nutshell. I'll tell you in before and after format. First up, the farmer could only sell in an APMC. This was before the reforms. After reforms, a farmer has freedom of choice. They can sell in an APMC or outside of it. With these reforms, a farmer gets the freedom to sell their produce to whomever they want and wherever they want. This was denied to them until now. Next up, before reforms, middlemen enjoyed a monopoly. After reforms, farmer has multiple options to sell. Point number 3, before reforms, a cartel could keep prices artificially low, but after reforms, farmers get a fair price, How, you ask? By virtue of competition. That's how. APMC market yard faces competition from other markets. Point number 4, before the reforms, a farmer had to accept whatever be the price. Now, the farmer has the greater bargaining power to decide the price. 5th point, before the reforms, a farmer had to pay the APMC a fee, pay commission and other charges. But now, no fee, no commission. I repeat, no fee, no commission. It means more savings for the farmer. Point number 6, before the reform, there used to be a large price spread, fragmented markets. But now there's a higher share of producer in consumers' payment. Next up is a point of the fragmented markets, but now there's a low cost of logistics after reforms. And moving on, before the reform, there was a long chain of intermediaries or middlemen, but after reforms, there is minimum or no intermediary. Moving on, before reforms, farm youth had no opportunity to trade in agri-commodities, but today, youths have an opportunity to trade and run supply chains as well. 8th point, before reforms, a farmer could not bypass a middleman to sell directly to consumer. But today, they can sell directly to anyone, bypassing the middleman and thereby earn a higher price, a profit for themselves. Before reforms, a farmer had only had the freedom to sell fruit and vegetables outside the APMC in certain states. Now after reforms, this freedom is extended to all agri-produce all over the country. And now 10th point is, before reforms, contract farming was limited to some pockets, and that too, it was under tight bureaucratic control. But today, the contract is on terms favorable to the farmer. The farmer can get a pre-decided price based on the agreement with the buyer as well. Moving on, before reforms, farmers were not part of the value chain at all. Now, farmers are a partner in the value chain. And last but not the least, before reforms, exports were not competitive at all due to a long chain of intermediaries and poor logistics. But now, competitiveness has increased and it benefits the farmer as well. Now take a look at the myth versus reality. Myth first, farmer will not get the MSP. The reality is MSP stays. In fact, the Modi government has increased MSP multiple times and bought more from farmers at MSP than any past government. Myth number 2, MSP-based procurement system will eventually end. The reality is the new law will not affect MSP adversely. MSP purchase on agricultural produce is done through state agencies, and there is no change in this due to the law. Third myth, corporates will exploit farmers. Now, reality is a simple, quick, cost-effective dispute redressal mechanism is prescribed to prevent and curb any unscrupulous act. Myth number 4, the act does not safeguard farmer payments. The reality is payment has to be made through the farmers on the same day or within 3 working days flat. 5th is the commission agents are verified, therefore payment is secure. The reality is a penalty provision against the intermediaries is a big deterrent against any fraudulent motives. Myth number 6, the act will block ways for a state to generate revenue from agriculture trade and will lead to closure of APMC, eventually giving corporates a monopoly on agriculture trade. The reality is state APMC Act and institutions established under such statutes will continue to operate. They are not affected in any way by this reform. Instead, it allows for development of a private APMC infrastructure in the states and hence improve market access for farmers. And finally, corporates will take over farmers' land and farmers will end up becoming laborers. The reality is that the Act clearly disallows transfer, including sale or mortgage of land or premises of the farmer. The Act ensures that buyers, sponsors or corporates are prohibited from acquiring ownership rights or making permanent modifications on farmers' agreement will be for crops and not for land. Right. Now, staying with this story, let me now get you another ground report, this time from Madhya Pradesh. Now, some farmers are looking beyond traditional crops. they are diversifying other crops. Some of them have taken to growing herbs such as lemongrass. Take a look.
In Ramnagar block of Chitrakoot district in Madhya Pradesh, about 600 farmers have shifted to cultivating herbs, particularly lemongrass, and they are reaping profits by a huge margin. The tillers say that earlier the Rabi and Kharif crops demanded more labor days and input costs were high, but now with lemongrass, the margins have improved considerably.
लेमन ग्रास हम 2 बीघे में लगाए, जिससे हमें 2 बीघे में समथिंग 80,000 रुपए बेनिफिट हुआ। इसके बाद हम फिर 23 बीघे में लगाए। 23 बीघे में 5 से 6 लाख रुपए की हमने बेचा।
इस फसल को करने से हमें क्या फायदा होता है कि हम इसको एक बार लगा देते हैं तो ये लगातार 5 साल चलती है। तो हमारा जो साल में 2 बार हम खर्च करते थे वो हमारे खर्च की बचत होती है और इसकी जो पैदावार है ये हर 6 महीने में ज्यादा बढ़ती चली जाती है। जब एक बार कटिंग करते हैं तब दोबारा ज्यादा हो जाती है, फिर कटिंग करते हैं फिर ज्यादा होती चली जाती है।
The farmers are earning as much as 40,000 rupees per bigha or 12,000 square feet of land, and more importantly, they do not have to run from pillar to post to sell it. The produce is lifted right from the fields itself. Bureau Report, DD News.
Right, joining me is my colleague Arun Sharma for more on this developing story. Good evening, Arun. Now, farmers are to hold a 6th round of talks on 9th December, but they are going ahead with a nationwide strike on the 8th of December. What are you picking up on the latest on the farmer protests?
Well, as far as the farmer protest is concerned, a good thing has happened that the farmers have agreed for a 6th round of talks.
Right.
That means they are hopeful. That means Centre and farmers, they both are hopeful for any kind of conclusive outcome that everybody is expecting as of now. Centre on one side is constantly ensuring that the myths from the farmers can be removed, and whatever clause by clause discussion they have to do, whatever the speculation or myths is there in the minds of the farmer, that can be removed. So on the other side, the farmers are of the views that an assurance on MSP can be given to the farmers. But on the other side, Centre, and of course Prime Minister Narendra Modi on various platforms has reiterated this fact that MSP is not going to go away. Now this is the big factor, that the MSP factor is becoming a big factor, because certain middlemen and of course a certain section of the political parties, they're trying to give mileage to this thing, by creating a fake propaganda, or primarily by creating speculation myths in the minds of the farmer that MSP will gradually go away. But on the other side, the government is very much clear on this path that the MSP will not go and MSP is going to stay over here. Second important part is that, Ramesh, we should understand this fact as far as these 3 farm laws are concerned. This removes the monopoly from the market. And the moment you remove monopoly from any of these sectors in the economy, the exploitation finally ends. And that is what the intent of the government is, that till now the farmers were only selling it to a one trade area, only aratiyas, or what we call it as middlemen in this entire agriculture chain. But now various trade areas, or you can say that various trade ecosystem or various markets have been provided by the government as of now that primarily strengthens and empowers the farmer. Let me also put it this way, Ramesh, that certain laws, this is an irony, that contract farming as of now is happening in various states, be it Punjab, be it Maharashtra, be it Gujarat,
right,
be it Andhra Pradesh. But yes, in Punjab, contract farming is happening. Various listed companies, various international companies, various retail outlets are getting into contract with the various farmers. But when the Centre has come out with this agriculture law, why are the Punjab farmers primarily protesting for it? A second important aspect is that you'll be surprised to know, Ramesh, that these farmers are protesting for the private mandis going forward. But you look at various examples. Just for an example, Maharashtra, there are close to 18 private, private areas or private trade areas whereby the farmers can sell their stuff. And in 2019, 24,500 crore rupees of turnover happened in these private mandis. So yes, the farmers are protesting because of the fact there is no clarity in the mind. There was speculation and that they are going to lose, they're going to be losing it. But the government on the side is trying to prove and to convince the farmers with various success stories all across the country that these laws, the certain kind of laws do exist, and these are actually beneficial for the farmers in doubling the farmers' income actually, Ramesh.
Indeed. And Arun, very quickly, one more time the discussion with you. Now, the farmers have been raising a number of issues for the last 11 days now. They have spoken about their fears of dismantling of MSP, dismantling of the APMCs. But the ministers and the government in particular have gone out of their way to reassure the farmers that the APMCs and the MSP is here to stay, and they are willing to go further than that and give a written undertaking that MSP will continue. So can we hope for an early resolution come the 9th of December when they meet for the 6th time for talks?
What my sources are telling that 6th round of talks will be very much progressive in nature, and we can expect, and it is very much likely that there can be a possible outcome, because as the Agriculture Ministry is constantly telling it that yes, they're also ready to give it in writing as far as MSP is concerned. And Ramesh, let's try to understand this fact. Any law, when it is drafted by the government, that has to be progressive in nature. That has to be, forward-looking in nature. And with all the stakeholders into consideration, these 3 laws have been designed by the government. And that's the reason when we talk about doubling of the farmers' income, giving a bigger market to the farmers, all these plays into consideration. But only thing is that there are myths in the mind of the farmers. They're speculating that gradually the corporate sector will take over and exploitation of farmers will happen. But whenever there is monopoly, there is exploitation. Whenever monopoly goes away, primarily the exploitation comes to an end, and that is what is beneficial for the farmer. So that is what the government will try to convince the farmers when it meets on the 9th of December. Ramesh.
All right. On that note, Arun, thank you so much for joining us on Newsnight tonight. Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you for your time. Right. Time now for our In Focus segment, in which we are discussing about agri reforms, myth versus reality. Joining me are 2 very special guests, Mr. S.K. Singh, Deputy Agricultural Marketing Advisor, Government of India, and Professor Rakesh Singh, Head of Department of Agricultural Economics, Banaras Hindu University. Mr. Singh joins us from New Delhi and Professor Singh from Varanasi. Gentlemen, welcome to Newsnight. If I can start with you, Mr. Singh. Now, we've seen the protests going on for 11 days now. Do you think this is a case of pure politics or an irrational fear of the unknown, some would say, that they are not confident enough to face competition from the open market? Or you think there's something more to it than meets the eye?
Okay. First, I would like to submit that what are the major problems of the agricultural sector which farmers are facing. In India, annually more than 5,000 farmers commit suicide. If you include agricultural laborers, the figure goes beyond 12,000. The post-harvest losses are to the tune of more than 92,000 crores. And the major problem which farmers face is that production as well as the marketing risk. The second, that they don't get a fair remunerative price for their produce. And the third is that the post-harvest losses. Now, with these 3 acts, which were designed, all stakeholders were taken into consideration. It was put in public domain also. Mm-hmm. Now, this is the reform in the 60 years old law, that was APMC Act, which was enacted in a position when India had a position of food insecurity.
Right.
Now we have food surplus, but still it exists. And it is very funny that we are the founder signatory of WTO. Mm-hmm. Our boundaries are open for global trade, but here we exercise interstate movement, intra-state movement. These are barriers are there in agricultural marketing sector. The second thing is that a lot of information asymmetry is there.
Right.
So through this law, definitely it is apprehension is assumed, and that several studies have proved that farmers are going to get better price as they are getting today.
Absolutely.
Because these acts are going to improve the competitiveness in the market.
Indeed.
If you see the figure at India level, one market caters the need of more than 16,000 farmers. In Uttar Pradesh, one market caters the need of more than 92,000 farmers. Where in one APMC market, hardly on an average 25-30 farmers the traders are there,
right,
who made a cartel and now they act like a monopoly condition. One very important study revealed long back that one trader in Lasegao market who controls 20% of the total in the country. So this is the situation.
right.
Now, these, whether it is the farmers produce trade and commerce, as well as the farmers empowerment and protection on price assurance, through these two acts, farmers are going to have more number of buyers. And when they will have more number of buyers, there will be free trade. Definitely the price in the market will go up and they will be benefited.
Indeed.
As far as the MSP is concerned, earlier also MSP was not assured. It was not guaranteed. Even when the pulses were sold at the rate of 200 kg, and next year when the production went up from 16 million tons to 23 million tons,
right,
the market price crashed and no farmer was able to get the minimum support price. So earlier also minimum support price was not guaranteed.
Indeed, you make a number of valid points, Mr. Singh, but if I can bring Professor Singh in the discussion now. Professor Singh, now the Agriculture Minister has said a number of times that MSP will remain, APMCs will remain intact. He could not be clearer. He has gone a step forward and said, I will give you a written undertaking as well. Why then are the farmers so apprehensive? What is the real issue at play here?
Sir, before we start, I would like to make it clear I am S.K. Singh. I am Deputy Advisor in Agriculture Marketing, Government of India. And Professor Singh has already commented on your issue. So I am S.K. Singh, sir. Now I am responding.
Sure.
First, before going to your question, it is necessary to understand why the Government of India has enacted 3 laws.
Right.
Right from the beginning, organized marketing in the country was through the APMC markets. Means there was the restriction on trade and transactions on 2 points. Means farmer was bound to sell to limited number of traders licensed under the APMC Act. Second problem was that the trade transaction was allowed to take place in the notified market yard. Means if processing unit was located nearer to the farm gate or the village of the farmer, he was not able to sell to the processor because of the restrictive provisions of the state's APMC Act. Means the processor was required to move to the mandi, similarly the farmer. Right. And there too, if the processor was not licensed under the APMC Act, he had to move through the commission agent. This was the one problem. Second issue was movement problem, because the country requires a national level market. But in our country, there is not even the state level market. Means within state, there are numerous notified market areas controlled and regulated by market committees. There was not a need for a single state level market, but there was a need for national level market. Means buyer across the country can buy the produce located elsewhere in the country, and similarly the movement of the produce should be free. These were the reasons for enactment of these laws. Now come to your question directly.
Right.
There are three major issues which have been ripped up, which have been created, which have been man-created, and these are because of some sort of apprehensions. First is MSP may go away. I said make it very clear.
Sure.
This is the law. MSP is the policy of the government, that is price support policy, and there was no reason to link the act enactments and the MSP. And not only this, our Honorable Prime Minister publicly has made it clear that MSP was, is and will continue.
Right.
And similarly, in both houses of parliament, our Union Agriculture Minister has made clear, and in further publicly these two leaders have made it clear that MSP will continue. And one more thing I would like to add here, government has to run the Food Security Act and supply the food to the poorer, to the targeted people through PDS and TPDS as 1 rupee, 2 rupee, 3 rupee, from where the commodity will be procured. This is the only system, that is the government procurement at MSP. Means that will continue. There is no truth at all. This is totally false news. This is totally apprehensions created in the mind. It will continue. I don't think there is any problem. This law will create any problem anywhere. And second problem is created that APMCs may be troubled. They may be shut down. They may be dismantled. Sir, I would like to make it very clear to particularly to our farmers. The idea of enactment of these acts were to create the additional marketing channel.
Right.
Agriculture marketing is a dynamic subject. It needs not only to meet the requirement of the domestic marketing system, but the international market as well. So the country required that such marketing system should be created, right, where there should be minimum marketing cost, and additionally additional marketing channels should be created. Now the mandis, the APMC markets will remain as such, and those who get the better price in the mandis, they are free to sell in the mandis. Those who get the better price in the trade area, that is outside the physical boundaries of the mandi, they can sell there. And one more thing that is very important, that mandis will improve themselves because they will have to compete with the trade area. And I would like to mention, recently several state governments have slashed the market fee. Like in Karnataka, it has gone down to 0.35%, while earlier before this enactment it was 1.5%.
Right.
Similarly, in Uttar Pradesh, it was 2%. Now it has gone to 1%. In other states also, means efficiency has started to has started to increase in the system. And thirdly, and that too is very important, that corporates will take over. Particularly in the case of a farming agreement, it is again I want to make it clear to the farming community that it is clearly mentioned in the enactment, in the provisions, in the clauses, that the agreement will be made for the produce of the farmers, not for the transfer of the land, leasing or mortgage, etc., etc. And one more thing I would like to make to our brothers, to our farmers, that whenever there is any dispute, wherever there is any dispute and penalty is imposed, and there is no provision on penalizing the farmers, only the whatever amount they have taken from the sponsors mean the companies which have entered into the agreement, that much, and even without the interest, is to be recovered. And the recovery of land revenue is also not applicable in the case of farmers, means nothing can be recovered against the farmer. One thing I would like also make clear here, permanent structure cannot be created on the farmer's land and the farmer's premises. There too no modification is possible. If it is required, that is to be done with agreement clearly explicitly mentioned in the agreement, and with the condition that a sponsor will dismantle with the expiration of the agreement, and if it is not done, the title of that will go to the farmer.
Indeed. Mrs. S.K. Singh, you explained beautifully the facts of the case. But if I can go back to Professor Singh now. Professor Singh, now the three new farm acts actually give the farmers the option, an alternative. Now, they unshackle the farmers, they empower them. So what could possibly be wrong to empower the farmers? And so my question to you is, what do you make of these protests happening at the Delhi border today as we speak for 11 days and counting? Why this opposition to laws that actually empower the farmer? They bring them benefits, they unshackle them. So why these protests? What is at the root cause of these protests, you think?
If we see the figure of the procurement, in fact, it is only wheat and rice where the government procurement is there. And out of the total procurement of wheat and rice, more than 60% is contributed by Punjab and Haryana. And this is the reason that the political parties are making it a tool that, okay, in the near future, this MSP will go. And my colleague very rightly said that as long as National Food Security Act is enacted in this country, the MSP will continue and government will procure on the basis of MSP.
Right.
See, my another point is that...
Very quickly, please, Professor Singh.
Yeah, as on today, we are producing 315 million tons of horticultural produce.
Right.
And only 297 million tons of food grains. But no MSP is there for this 315 million tons of horticultural production.
Right.
Where the price variability is very high. So those
right, you make a number of valid points there, Professor Singh. But if I can go back to Mr. S.K. Singh one last time on this discussion. Mr. Singh, among the various issues raised by the farmers is the issue of contract farming, for instance, or their worries about land. Now, you've spoken about the land bit, but talking about contract farming, now we see that happen in Gujarat, in Maharashtra, as our ground report said in this on the Newsnight tonight. Why do you think, if what is good for Gujarat and Maharashtra should be good for Punjab as well, isn't it?
Clear. A contract is governed under Indian Contract Act, and it was going on sporadically across the country.
Right.
In the unconstitutional manner. It was not institutionalized. There was no protective manner. But Government of India came forward in 2003 and with the Model APMC Act. In the Model APMC Act, there was built-in provision for contract farming. And based on that provision, 19 states adopted. Of course, as far as Punjab is concerned, Punjab in 2013 formulated a separate contract farming act. Now come to the second point.
Right.
There are registered contract farming under the state's APMC Act. In Maharashtra, there are number of contract farming on white onion and other crop, fruits and vegetables. Right. In Haryana, there is a contract on barley. There is a contract on basmati rice. There is a contract on cotton. In Punjab too, of course, it is not recorded because that act of the Punjab, that is up to 2013, is not enacted because of the non-formulation of rule thereunder. In Gujarat, of course, there were number of contracts. Last year, the contract registration was not renewed and that could not be continued in several states. And I tell you, sir, very frankly, very clearly, very honestly, these contract farming will be proved as boon for the farmer.
Absolutely. So contract farming will prove itself to be a boon for farmers across country, not just Gujarat, not just Maharashtra, but even for farmers in Punjab and Haryana who are protesting now as we speak at the Delhi border. On that note, Mr. S.K. Singh and Professor Rakesh Singh, thank you for joining us on Newsnight tonight. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Right. Moving on for now, the nation pays homage to Dr. Bhimrao Ambedkar on the occasion of his 64th death anniversary. Prime Minister Modi said on Sunday that Dr. Ambedkar's thoughts and ideals continue to give strength to millions and that the government remains committed to fulfilling Dr. Ambedkar's dreams.
Nation paid rich homage to Ratna Dr. B.R. Ambedkar on his 64th Maha Parinirvan Divas or death anniversary, as several functions were organized all across the country to pay homage to the chief architect of the Constitution. Rich tributes were paid in Chaitya Bhumi, Dadar, Mumbai. Maharashtra Governor Bhagat Singh Koshyari, Chief Minister Uddhav Thackeray led the state in remembering the great contribution rendered by Babasaheb in the making of modern India. They visited Ambedkar's memorial at the Shivaji Park in Dadar and paid respects. Many other state leaders were also present on the occasion. Thousands of people converge on Dadar every year to pay homage to Babasaheb, but this year the event was curtailed due to Covid-19 pandemic. The death anniversary of the chief architect of the Constitution is observed as Mahaparinirvan Din. President Ramnath Kovind led the nation in paying homage to Babasaheb. Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu also paid homage to Dr. Ambedkar. Prime Minister Narendra Modi also paid rich tributes. He tweeted, remembering the great Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar on Mahaparinirvan Divas, his thoughts and ideals continue to give strength to millions. We are committed to fulfilling the dreams he had for our nation. Union Home Minister Amit Shah also tweeted, following the footsteps of Babasaheb, the Modi government is working with dedication for the welfare of the section that has remained deprived of development for decades. Leaders and office bearers across the nation also remembered the immense contribution of Babasaheb and paid rich tributes to him.
बाबासाहेब भीमराव अम्बेडकर जी ने मानवता के कल्याण का जो मार्ग प्रशस्त किया, उसी का परिणाम है कि पूरा देश और पूरी दुनिया उस महामानव के प्रति कृतज्ञता ज्ञापित करते हुए उनके प्रति विनम्र श्रद्धांजलि और श्रद्धा का भाव, सम्मान का भाव रखता है.
Dr. Bhimrao Ambedkar was a jurist, a social reformer and a visionary leader of India. He is considered as the chief architect of the Indian Constitution and was also the first Law Minister of independent India. He was also the torchbearer of Dalit activism in India. With inputs from Yogesh Sheetal in Mumbai, Newsnight Desk, DD India.
Agra, the land of the Taj Mahal, will soon get a metro rail. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will inaugurate the construction of work on Agra Metro Rail project on Monday. It will take 5 years to build and cost around 8,400 crore rupees.
The city of love, Agra, is developing into a smart city. Residents of this world-famous tourist destination will soon be connected by metro rail, providing them with relief from traffic jams and giving foreign tourists quality modern infrastructure, a convenience that is likely to add to their already large numbers. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will inaugurate the construction of the Agra Metro project on the 7th of December 2020 at 12 noon via video conference. Union Minister of Housing and Urban Affairs Hardeep Singh Puri, Chief Minister of Uttar Pradesh Yogi Adityanath and other dignitaries will attend the event at the 15 Battalion PAC Parade Ground in Agra.
आगरा मेट्रो रेल परियोजना का जो निर्माण कार्य है उसका शुभारंभ होने जा रहा है अब, और ये भारत सरकार और केंद्र सरकार द्वारा अनुमोदित एक परियोजना है जिसका हमको अप्रूवल मिला है भारत सरकार से, और फाइनली इस प्रोजेक्ट को अब हम एग्जीक्यूट करने जा रहे हैं जो 8,379 करोड़ की है. मेट्रो का जो टोटल कंस्ट्रक्शन पीरियड है वो 5 इयर्स है. जब स्टार्ट होगा तो उससे 5 साल लगेंगे. और इस पहले कॉरिडोर में बिकॉज 7 अंडरग्राउंड स्टेशन है जो बहुत कंजस्टेड एरिया से हैं, प्लस हिस्टोरिकल मोनूमेंट्स हैं उन एरियाज़ में, तो जिनसे हम उनके रेगुलेटेड एरिया से निकलेंगे.
The Agra Metro project comprises 2 corridors with a total length of 29.4 kilometers. It connects major tourist attractions like the Taj Mahal, Agra Fort and Sikandra with railway stations and bus stands. The project will benefit 26 lakh population of the city of Agra and will also cater to more than 60 lakh tourists who visit Agra every year. It will provide an environment-friendly mass rapid transport system to the historic city of Agra. The estimated cost of the project will be 8,379.62 crore rupees, which will be completed in 5 years. With inputs from Sajan Sagar and Rajesh Raj, Newsnight Desk, DD India.
Now, Monday will see Phase 4 of the District Development Council election take place in Jammu and Kashmir. My colleague Rama Tyagi gets you more from Srinagar.
In the fourth phase of the ongoing DDC polls, 34 constituencies, 17 each from Jammu and Kashmir division, will go to the polls on Monday. Along with this, by-polls to 50 vacant Sarpanch seats and 216 vacant Panch seats falling within these DDC constituencies will also be conducted in this phase. There are 138 candidates in the fray in Kashmir, while in Jammu division there are 111 candidates. In the fourth phase, 7,17,322 electors are eligible to cast their votes. There are 1,910 polling stations set up across the Union Territory for this phase. Out of these 1,910 polling stations, there shall be poll for Sarpanch vacancies in 212 stations and Panch vacancies in 219 polling stations, along with the DDC polls. Administration is confident of a peaceful polling process.
सबका जो है बिल्कुल एक्सटेंसिव ट्रेनिंग्स हो चुकी हैं फेज वाइज सबकी एंड दे आर ऑल मतलब सेट एंड ऑल गो फॉर पोल्स ऑल जोनल मैजिस्ट्रेट्स हैं हमारे जो दे हैव बीन ब्रॉट क्यूआरटीज आर देयर एसएचओज ऑफ डिफरेंट जो प्लेसेस हैं दे आर ऑन जॉब आई डोंट थिंक एनी कोई प्रॉब्लम है इस हमारे एसएसपी साहब ही इज़ हेयर विद अस डीआईजी साहब हमारे हैं वो ही इज़ हेयर विद अस तो डीआईजी सीआरपीएफ आई एम टेलिंग एसएसबी पीपल दे आर हेयर तो ऑलमोस्ट इट इज़ टू द एक्सटेंट ऑफ फुल प्रूफ हम कह सकते हैं वट एवर बेस्ट पॉसिबल ह्यूमनली है वो सारा इंतजाम हो चुका है
हमको बताया गया कि हमको वक्त कैसे इस्तेमाल करना है कैसे वोटर कैसे आएगा उसको कैसे वोट कराना है कैसे चुनाव कराना है सब कुछ दिखाते हैं कोविड के लिए भी उन्होंने किट भी दिया है उसके लिए भी हम पूरी तरह तैयार हैं
हमें ट्रेनिंग दी है कि बराबर कैसे वोट डालना होता है कैसे फिलअप करना है फॉर्म उसके कैसे फिलअप करना है तो वही दिखाते हैं हम
Polling will be conducted on the 7th of December from 7 a.m. to 2 p.m. All arrangements for this phase are in place, including manpower, election material and security arrangements in all poll-going areas. With inputs from Rama Tyagi, Newsnight Desk, DD India.
Moving on, Delhi Police's special cell arrested Abdullah Danish, a member of the banned Simi outfit. Abdullah Danish is charged with cases under UAPA and sedition. Now, he was absconding ever since Simi was banned in the year 2001. It's alleged that Abdullah had provoked several Muslim youths to act against the country. The Made in India Howitzer Advanced Artillery Gun System is being tested in Ahmednagar in Maharashtra. This DRDO developed gun has been designed to cater to the requirements of the Indian Army. It's capable of a long-range target of up to 50 kilometers. To sports now, India defeated Australia by 6 wickets in the second T20 International, clinching the 3-match series on Sunday. Batting first, Australia scored a mammoth 94 for 5. Skipper Matthew Wade top scoring with a 58 and Steve Smith scoring 46 of 38 balls. India surpassed the target in 19.4 overs. Hardik Pandya remained not out on 42 of 22 balls. Shikhar Dhawan made a valuable 52 runs and captain Virat Kohli made 40. India had won the first T20I by 11 runs in Canberra on Friday. The dead third rubber T20I will be played on Tuesday. To world news now, Japan has retrieved a capsule of asteroid dust from Australia's remote outback after a 6-year mission that may help uncover more about the origins of the planets and water. The capsule was recovered in the Woomera restricted area, about 460 kilometers north of Adelaide. A helicopter flew the capsule from an unmanned craft containing the first extensive samples of asteroid dust from the landing site in Australia's desert to a domestic Japanese research facility. The mission of the Japanese spacecraft Hayabusa 2 highlights Asia's growing role in space exploration. Last week, a Chinese robotic vehicle collected lunar samples for the first time since the 1970s. Russian and international riders performed stunts on motorcycles and snowmobiles during an extreme sports festival on Saturday in Moscow. Despite the coronavirus, the annual event, held for the 14th time, took place with measures restricting the number of spectators to 25% of capacity. A total of 131 participants demonstrated stunts on bikes, cars, scooters and snowmobiles. But not all overseas riders who usually come to the festival from abroad were able to attend this year due to a travel ban. Last year, 180 participants came to Moscow for the event. All may not be calm in 2020, but some things are still bright this Christmas in Brazil. In the city of Sao Paulo, the Lumina Festival is bringing the spark of the season to locals who were otherwise stuck at home during the pandemic. Organizers install elaborate Christmas decorations and glittering lights that can be viewed from the safety of a private car. For those passing by for a glimpse of Christmas from their cars, the results were delightful. In Jerusalem's Bethlehem, a Christmas tree was lit up outside the Church of Nativity. The giant tree was illuminated by hundreds of golden white bulbs as fireworks lit up the night sky. A small group of residents and religious leaders participated in the tree lighting ceremony at Manger Square near the Church of Nativity, where Christians believe Jesus was born. Meanwhile, arrangements were made to witness the ceremony virtually due to COVID-19 restrictions. Two tiny twin monkeys made their public debut at a British zoo earlier in the week. The baby eastern pygmy marmosets monkeys, now about 5 centimeters in length and weighing around 10 grams, were born on 7th September to parents Zoe and Baldrick. The marmosets are some of the smallest monkey species in the world. And that's a wrap, but news continues here on DD India. You can catch all the latest updates on our social media, mobile and digital platforms. Don't forget, it's a simple task. Just wear a mask. Join DD India's Mask Up campaign to beat COVID-19. Thanks for watching. Bye.